All right. Welcome back to the PricePlow Podcast. Today, I'm super excited to talk with someone who we have not had on the podcast before, Dominic Kuza from Raw and Revive. Dom, we're super excited to talk with you today about all the things that you do at Raw and Revive, but you're also kind of new to like the community. Like we met you only a couple months ago. So I'm really excited to talk to you today, like about where you came from and what you're doing now. So thank you for joining us.
For sure. Thank you guys for having me.
Could you tell us a little bit about like, where'd you go to school? What got you into all of this?
Yeah, so I was getting ready to actually go to dental school. I took my DAT, got waitlisted, did all that. And then I had a change of heart 1 year after I reapplied and everything. And then I just decided to stop, go do a post-bac. And then I did my master's in exercise science at Oakland University in Rochester, Michigan. And then in that program, we had like electives that we could pick. So I did all my electives in physio. So like did a medical physiology class at the med school there. I did advanced human physio. I did all the exercise physics that they offered. And then I did a muscle physiology. And then my whole thesis project was on amino acids and muscle protein synthesis. And then like the back end of it was all on beta-alanine, creatine, citrulline, and carnosine.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I've been fitness coaching
That's about
forever.
as close as you're going to come in ways, aside from maybe biochemistry stuff, like to majoring, like quote unquote majoring in dietary supplements. Like you just talked about, like half of our blog posts mentioned those terms. So you were like, you came in ready to roll, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
So what happens when you're like studying beta alanine? Was it mostly like looking at all the research there? I'm imagining it's not a ton from the textbooks, is there?
No, so there wasn't a ton in text. It was more research studies that you were diving into and getting into. And then one thing that I think a lot of people also don't realize that much is like with exercise science, depending on where you go to school, but majority of schools are very like endurance sport focused, like Wayne gait tests and VO2 maxes and, things like that, which is actually really useful now with Ross, getting really heavy in the endurance realm. Because I remember like one day somebody's like, damn, how do you you've been a bodybuilding coach for a while. Like, how do you know? And I'm like, dude, this is all the stuff we learned in school. So like, it was just me getting back into all those notes again.
You've had a number of different takes where we've asked about like a source of an ingredient or why you did a formula that came out kind of interesting to me. Like, in my opinion, a lot of dietary supplements, like content or direction of formulas is kind of like the same thing over and over. Mike and I kind of joke that every single day we write about 6 grams of citrulline and 3.2 grams of beta alanine. Like it's the same thing every day. But you've opened up some stuff like recently when we were talking about the collagen source. And I kind of looked at it and I was like, well, it's a fish or a beef source. I don't really think too much about it. But you had a whole look into the sourcing of that ingredient. So do you feel like that time in college like prepared you for your job? Or do you feel like you had to learn a whole new skill set when you came in?
No, I feel like my time in college definitely helped. But honestly, I think why I take a much different approach to a lot of stuff when we conversate like internally is because I work with a lot of people, like one-on-one coaching, health coaching. I do a lot of functional health coaching. I look at blood work every single day. And I've used ingredients in ways that might be unconventional in some thought processes. And I think that is a big reason why some of the newer stuff that you're seeing is different than how it was being, formulated at first. Because I have that direct connection with the consumer a lot of the time because I work with, and I see what works and I see what doesn't work. And that's helped us a lot with just honing in on making us a little different than, like you said, like 6 grams of citrulline with everything.
Mm-hmm. I would say that's actually probably even most applicable to Revive, because I feel like with a lot of health supplements, you look at a blood sugar product. There's like berberine, banana, cinnamon, like they put everything in it at max dose of everything, and they expect that just fixes the problem for everyone. But you have experience working with individuals that actually needed to fix something. And it seems like you don't have like a sledgehammer approach to your formulas. First of all, like you kind of are very pinpointed, but I bet that's because you understand like what really happens in individuals that you've worked with, right?
Yeah. And I think when you come down to like health products specifically, you can look at every issue somebody has as like a cycle, and it's breaking that cycle that really helps them. Right. So like, for example, like Matt's dealing with all this immune stuff in his leg from the stem cells, like he's talked about on Instagram. So like I had him go get specific inflammatory markers to get blood work done so we can figure out which inflammatory pathway we need to break, right? And that's how you can pinpoint better treatment. That's how you can pinpoint better supplements. That's how you can pinpoint a lot of different things. So that's why I like with like cortisol support, like it's not even that many ingredients, but the way it's mapped out is to actually help with your brain's stress response, not just your adrenal glands response.
That's awesome.
So if I can take a step back, Raw's been around since what, 2020, 4 years or so, and Revive's probably like 5 or 6 years. When did you start with like some of the formulations? If I'm on PricePlow.com/raw-nutrition, for instance, we kind of have like a timeline in the news of when things were happening. So like for Revive and Raw, what were some of your first like babies, if I can say, and when did you officially start?
So I officially got in, hired January of this year. But I've been a fitness coach for almost a decade now, and I joined Matt's coaching team back in March of 2023. So then, that was a lot of like, I came in on this education angle, help us with blood work, help us with this, etc. And then there was a lot of products that, I was constantly recommending. And he's like, listen, if they're not Revive, it doesn't matter. I just want to fix the person. Right. And that was the main thing. And I said, well, there's things that we don't have that maybe we should make. And then that's when he was like, okay, make a formula for what you would want. So cortisol support was actually the first formula I did. I wasn't even working for them yet. It was just through conversation back and forth with Matt. So that was the first. And then Complete Vital was another one. And then I've helped a little bit with input on like the collagen, the new formulation of glucose that's coming. We're coming out with a joint support product. We're coming out with a new Magnesium Plus, changing the sources. So there's quite a few now that I've helped a lot with. There's some new raw stuff that's going to be coming out soon too with the endurance end that we have getting formulated right now. So you'll see more and more of like the formulations I worked on directly coming up soon here, probably by the end of the year.
Cool. Okay. So maybe I'll remember to pop it up on the screen. Cortisol support, 3 capsules, 30 servings per container. You have, here's what I like. And so, yeah, you definitely kind of took a sledgehammer approach with the doses, but you didn't use like a zillion ingredients. But you have phosphatidylserine, 50% at 600 milligrams. So that's awesome. Because like we often see this ingredient there's a lot of doses that are high. I guess actually you explain, but there's a lot of studies that have higher doses than what a lot of supplements use. Rhodiola, 400 milligrams. You have 1% salidroside, 3% rosifines. Magnolia, 300 milligrams, and L-theanine, 200 milligrams. So yeah, what were some of your thoughts when you were putting this together? And you have like all these options. Like obviously ashwagandha is kind of like what everyone thinks when it comes to cortisol, and you went the rhodiola phosphatidylserine approach. So what were you thinking there?
So I think like the problem with the phosphatidylserine that I saw a lot of the time was it's underdosed a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. And I feel like consistent with majority of studies, we need at least 500 milligrams in a serving. 600 specifically I went with just because of the capsule sizes, and it just fit the serving really well.
Nice. And
at the end of the day, right, if you're trying to fix somebody's stress response, especially with overproduction of cortisol, we need to reduce the adrenocorticotropic hormone that's coming from the brain at that point. And phosphatidylserine works really well in that pathway, right? So we're trying to help brain response, not just adrenal production. And then the rhodiola, I think, is a great encompassing ingredient for whether they're underactive or overactive adrenals. It's just really good at helping adaptations to stress. Magnolia is a sleeper. It was really popular, and then it got really forgotten. And I think that's when like PS came to the scene. Mm-hmm. But Magnolia is great for, reducing anxious feelings, helping you feel more relaxed. Because I instruct people to take this before bed. And I've had nothing but great responses with like how well they're sleeping after taking that.
Right. That was what I was going to say, is this Magnolia extract. This is the one thing that I'm drawn to, or I'm like, okay, this is going to kick my butt. I'm not taking this during the day. So that's good that you're telling people to take it before bed. I think, yeah. And then there's 42 milligram yield of magnesium as well from magnesium glycinate.
Yeah, small amount of magnesium glycinate.
I appreciate that because there's no other ingredients. Like, I'm not sure how if you're dealing with the manufacturing stuff, we can get into that. But a lot of times people just fill it with fillers or whatever. And when you could just, jam the rest of your capsule with extra PS or extra magnesium glycinate, that's the small stuff that's appreciated.
Yeah, no, for sure. And John and I do a lot of that back and forth together with the manufacturers. So every time like a spec sheet comes through, we take a look at it, make sure it's really where we want it. And there's been times where I've had to go back and be like, no, we need this source, only this source. Like, I don't want anything else but that. We're working on a mushroom complex, actually, that's coming out soon.
Cool.
It's going to have lion's mane, reishi, chaga, maitake. And it's all, the problem for a long time was I wanted them all fruiting body sourced. And one of the manufacturers just was having a hard time, kept coming back with mycelium. And I was like, no. And I even had to explain it to them, like with a picture, like we want the whole thing or we want the fruiting body. So some of them are whole fruit and then some of them are fruiting body. That way, you're getting all the active components of the mushroom itself. So no, we do a lot back and forth just to make sure it's perfect.
That's so exciting. I have a lot of questions about mushroom supplements in the market usually. Not a lot of them actually even say what it is, especially standardization for anything past like where it's coming from. So that's exciting. Mike, I don't know if you had any questions, but I actually wanted to ask about Complete Vital.
Yeah, we might as well. We're talking about formulas right now because that's kind of what you do. But yeah, we could take a step back after that. Let's just keep diving into like some of the formulas you worked with, and then go for it. Complete
Vital, I thought was kind of funny because you guys have something for everything. Was this something you wanted to make for like your Gen Pop not customers, but clients that don't really need like kidney, blood pressure, liver, but they just need like one thing?
Yeah, this was like a one thing for, the consumer that needs support, but maybe not to the extreme of like liver and kidney and heart and lipid all together, which was Complete Vital's idea. And then Complete Vital, I also really like because, again, through practice with my clientele, I've always had really good success with red yeast rice. And we didn't have a product with red yeast rice. So I wanted to put a product together that had red yeast rice to take an angle at like your overall heart health from an antioxidative, also cholesterol, and then a little bit of the nattokinase, which I love. Now, like the dose, if we look at studies, you could say like, yeah, you could take 10,000, right? But again, I'm not trying to do that because I also don't know what that consumer's taking as well, right? So I can't sledgehammer that, in case, who knows, they might be on a baby aspirin or Eliquis and then they're taking this on top of it. I don't want to run that risk of any sort. So that was the idea with Complete Vital. And then also tying that into, I do actually work for Relive as well. So actually tying that into the clinics for like HRT programs.
I think it's kind of funny it's cool because Revive was kind of born out of bodybuilding to a certain extent, right? But for a long time, like health supplements were so overkill because it was for people on a hard cycle. I like that you guys have taken more of a mainstream approach with this kind of stuff because like, my parents have certain things I'd like to give them supplements for, but I don't think I need to give them a full serving of most Revive products. Like most Revive products are quite strong. I probably could get away improving their blood work with using half a serving for a lot of stuff. So when this product came out, it just seemed very relevant for a lot of consumers.
Yeah, that was the idea, right? And then, even the way internally, like how we talked about how we wanted to market it was to that population.
Sweet. So with the supplement, red yeast rice, I've generally seen that with cholesterol and everything. I kind of like this because you have like one major ingredient per like category. So you're like just generally helping people. N-acetylcysteine, 600 milligrams, generally liver support. There's a ton of stuff that does. And Revive's leaned into NAC pretty well, even when FDA was pulling some shenanigans with it and trying to get rid of it. Terminalia Arjuna, I'm pretty sure that's general cardiovascular health.
Yeah.
Like cholesterol, possibly triglycerides.
It helps a lot with like ventricular hypertrophy and muscle tone of the heart.
Oh, okay. Interesting. What does it do in that aspect?
It's been shown to help reduce muscular hypertrophy, like of the left ventricle, and then also as far as like contractility of the heart, just improving that.
Gotcha. Okay, and then that's cool. And then curcumin, which is kind of like an all-around thing. This is like out of 4 capsules, and for this, I think this is really cool because for, let's just say, for normal people, they don't want to take like 30 capsules a day of all this stuff. You just hit them with a bunch of stuff that's going to relieve a lot of different potential issues with just 4 capsules. It is really, an all-around quality product. You have the curcumin C3 complex, grapeseed extract, then CoQ10, and then the nattokinase, as you mentioned. And so, you're using 2,000 as opposed to some people sledgehammer with 10,000. But I'm with you there. For a general kind of supplement, you don't need to go hog wild.
Yeah, no. And a lot of the inspiration behind that comes from like helping people with cholesterol, like particle sizes, cholesterol oxidation, and because that's really like your real danger with cholesterol lies. So the red yeast rice, the monoclonal Ks in it that can help with just, statin similar abilities, and then all the antioxidants present to just help fight off oxidation of that cholesterol. And then, having the CoQ10, just in case there is some CoQ10 depletion from the red yeast rice, just in that similar pathway, there's a little bit of potential for that. So that's why that's in there too.
Gotcha. Okay, so we can get back to the supplements. I'm kind of, and this will be evolved, I'm kind of personally interested in your blood work and how, not your personal blood work, but how you approach doing blood work and everything. Because obviously you're looking at like the lipid panel all the time. In general, can you tell us first off, like what your, within a reasonable budget, what your favorite biomarkers are to go get tested?
Yeah. If we said like reasonable budget, I would say obviously a CBC, a CMP. I would always like to get your adrenal hormones, so like cortisol and DHEA, a lipid profile, and then from there, I'd actually say you probably could just do, if you wanted to get into hormones, you could do all of them. But if, let's say, like, because hormone markers can get expensive, let's say I would just add probably an iron panel to that, or just ferritin, actually.
That is so I've been pretty public about my blood work on LinkedIn and Twitter, and my ferritin is currently high, so I'm scheduled to go dump some blood pretty soon. We can get into that, but cortisol DHEA, that is the one that of all these that I have never had tested. Is that pretty high on your list for basically everyone, or are you talking to mostly bodybuilders?
No, everybody. Okay,
so what do you learn and what do you do? Like one philosophy, just real quick, one philosophy I kind of have is like, don't get something measured if you're not going to change your behavior anyway.
True,
so like,
yeah.
If you see, like, what do you sometimes see? What patterns do you see, and what do you do about them?
So with blood serum, cortisol, and DHEAS, it can vary day to day. So let's start with that, right? Because some people will probably hear this and be like, well, it can be different every day. I'm acknowledging that, right? Mm-hmm. But there's also symptoms associated with that. So we always tell people to go get their blood work done fasted as close to waking up as possible. That way you're getting a good, healthy cortisol spike, and you're trying to capture that time, right? And from there, we can see, are people really overproducing cortisol that early in the morning? Are they really underproducing cortisol at that time of the morning? Right. And then there's symptoms associated with that. So let's say somebody was not spiking cortisol that well in the morning. They're going to want a nap in the middle of the day. They feel tired. They feel dependent on stims to get through the day. They have cravings for salty and sugary things. They have a hard time, keeping blood sugar up. If it's the other way, they have high cortisol, they might have a hard time going to sleep at night because their cortisol is so elevated throughout the day. They might find it like tired but wired at the end of the day. So there's symptoms that I always associate. So like when I have people go get blood work, I send them a questionnaire so that they fill out their symptoms that they're feeling, and then we correlate it back to their actual blood results. And then from there, we can map out supplements for them.
Interesting. And you had mentioned, along with cortisol, DHEA. Where does that come into that picture?
It's another adrenal hormone. So over time, we will see the adrenals start to, more or less fatigue. And when that happens, we'll start to see a shift in DHEA production as well. So we can correlate and cross-reference those two together to see, how far gone is it somebody at that point. So people with like low DHEAs, that could be a result of adrenal fatigue.
Do you supplement DHEA?
What is your next thing to do when you see that?
I don't supplement DHEA usually. What I try to do is the opposite. So something like cortisol support would actually not be good for that person, right? Because you'd actually be reducing adrenal production even further. Mm-hmm. I would do the opposite and use something like adrenal core, which is bovine adrenal extract. And then there's erythro in it, there's licorice in it, and that's all going to help actually stimulate some cortisol production. Licorice root actually helps with like increasing the half-life of cortisol, so there's more availability of the cortisol throughout the day. And that's a supplement you take in the morning, right? And then cortisol is something you take later in the day. Or cortisol support would be at nighttime. Adrenal core would be in the morning when you wake up. And that should help with DHEA production over time.
I used to use Relive for my TRT, and we would had injectable DHEA in the testosterone. So I don't know that I felt a remarkable difference from using normal testosterone with it, but I have not had my DHEA like regularly tested either.
Yeah, the thing I think about is like, where's the need for your DHEA to be implemented if you're on TRT at that point, right? I would rather not take something extra and just try to fix it naturally at its, core issue.
It was a question that I had because I'm not an expert in endocrinology or exogenous hormones, but I like to use as little as possible.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I was a competitive athlete, I used enough testosterone that I needed to deal with the side effects that came with that. But from a TRT perspective, I try not to take things that I don't have to because I'm already adding things into my equation.
Yeah, for sure.
Mike, do you have any questions on blood work? Mike's actually been like all about ferritin and blood work this week, so it's ironic that you brought this up.
Well, I want to get into cortisol one last time. So I'm just quickly on requestatest.com, which is sometimes where I get tests, but for cortisol, they have cortisol blood, compound F, hydrocortisone. Then they also have cortisone AM and cortisone PM. Like, do you know?
Yeah, so cortisone? I would get just the cortisol. The cortisone is just your metabolizing of cortisol.
Okay. And so, there's like blood LCMS. Yeah, okay. This is about $59. I would get the
LCMS one.
Okay, that one's $129 on this site. They're all different, but through LabCorp. Okay, so that one's a little bit more. DHEA on this site at least is $49 on LabCorp, so that's not too bad. Okay, so I didn't. We can talk about my ferritin. I don't like to bring someone on and have them play doctor or anything like that with me. But so what my last two blood tests have had high ferritin. It has gone down a little bit. When you see high ferritin but normal iron levels, and I can show you my whole thing. It's out there already. But my ferritin is 720 right now, and so. And I'm not on TRT. I'm not on anything really. So what I'm kind of seeing, I'd let you talk about it. But the issue is my iron levels and saturation, all that stuff, are right in line, and they have improved over the time. My ferritin over the last 7 months went from 770 down to 720. I've been taking lactoferrin is one thing that I added, but I did not dump blood. So dumping iron, as they sometimes say. So. That's where I'm at right now. So if you could tell us about ferritin at all, since you brought it up, I would love to hear what your take is.
Ferritin is protein made in the liver. It is an acute phase reactant to inflammation as well. So usually when you see like ferritin without liver enzyme issues, it's usually an iron problem or just an inflammatory response issue. Or if you see, normal liver, a little bit of iron issue with high ferritin, that could be symptomatic of like iron overload. If you have like elevated liver enzymes with normal iron saturation with the high ferritin, that's showing you like liver inflammation. So there's a couple of different ways we can look at ferritin. My favorite thing to do with ferritin is high doses of curcumin and high doses of boswellia. And I do, maybe about 2,000 milligrams 2 times a day. So it is a lot. Yeah. But they are shown to really reduce ferritin levels. And then the gold standard for iron binding IP6, in my opinion, I have high ferritin as well. So I do like 3.2 grams of IP6 to help with the iron. Now, there's some things that could be driving some of those issues. You have a hormone called hepcidin that controls iron absorption in the intestines. Some infections in the intestines, like H. pylori, for example, could alter hepcidin production, which could alter your iron status as well. So there's some other deeper things that you could get into and look at. But I always start with like really high anti-inflammatory approach, the IP6. And then if you can do like a double red's not a bad idea either.
So double red, does that mean you're giving twice as much volume, or how does
twice
that work?
as much volume of red blood cells? So they'll put it through a machine and then take just the red blood cells and put the plasma back in the other arm.
Interesting. Okay. I think for the first one, I'm just going to do regular. I did see that as an option.
Yeah.
My personal take is I was gonna see how the blood donation goes, because it's been a very long time. Probably should have been donating. If I feel better, I'm going to continue doing it every 8 weeks, maybe, or maybe consider something like that, and then test again eventually. One thing I did see also is, we already talked about it, NAC. There was ferritin was lowered. It was in like babies though, but it was like babies getting IV NAC were their ferritins improved as well. I didn't dig a whole lot deeper, but I was like, oh, that's enough for me to jump back on NAC because I'm a fan of that.
Yeah, a lot of liver support stuff will work well for ferritin.
Yeah, hopefully I can get to the root cause. I think there's, I don't know.
Are your like red blood cells, MCH, MCV, all those normal? RDW?
Yes, as far as MC. This is what I did. Red blood cells, RBC. Yeah, 5.08. Everything, hemoglobin, everything's green. Monocyte. Yeah, out of what was the other thing?
RDW, MCHC.
MCV's 92, so that's slightly high within the reference range I have, but it's good. MCH is in the middle. Yeah, all that stuff is, RDW is on, it's 12.3, maybe lowish in the reference range between 11.6 and 15.4. Everything's green though, as far as those go.
Yeah, no, the reason I ask is because like thalassemias can cause ferritin issues.
What's that?
It's a genetic condition with your hemoglobin genes.
Gotcha.
Like I have beta thalassemia minor. So like I am missing a gene to a subunit of hemoglobin. So my red blood cell walking around is an 8.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow.
Are you a fan of dumping blood? Is that something that you recommend?
I actually don't dump any blood.
I stopped. I had my red blood cell like is incredibly sensitive to TRT. So as I said, like when I was a competitive athlete, I had to dump quite often. I'd like get prescriptions for it. Which just sucks. I have like super bad white coat syndrome, so just getting in to get it done is like a chore in itself. But I had to bring down my testosterone like so far to like be at a part where I don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah, like my red blood cells have been like a 7.2 since I was like 15. Wow. So like even when I was competitively bodybuilding, they got up to like an 8. Now they just kind of hang out around an 8. But my hematocrit's always like a 50. So as long as my hematocrit doesn't get over like a 54. They told me that I don't really need to blood dump. And sometimes people have bad reactions to blood dumps and they just start to overcompensate and just hyper produce again.
I had to go on like a high frequency schedule to like get like a shock out of it because my body would just overproduce back up. But also I found like things like nattokinase have helped a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's why I have these rosy red cheeks.
Yeah. Really? This is good stuff to know. All right. Well, I think it kind of demonstrates that that you are definitely the right guy to be talking to about some of this stuff, because looking at the blood work is, to me, huge. Like we could all just, like joke about the formulation of a 6-gram citrulline or whatever, but when you're getting into this health stuff, it makes a lot of a difference knowing that you are seeing a lot of people respond. And so with for the whole thing, understanding what you're doing with ferritin and chasing some of the inflammation potential problems, like that's something that I'm not going to do that just yet. I want to see like one thing at a time, like people like to throw, I'm not doing kitchen sink. I'm going to go donate blood first. And I
think this is a help to us with our formulations. Like I have both experience and the school background of it all. Like I can differentiate bad research from good research. I can, but then I work with, 100 plus clients right now still, and I do this every day. So it's nice to have that balance of both the experience and the, school.
What's something that you have, treated with clients that didn't really align with like the science that you had read? Is there anything that pops out to you? Like last time we podcasted with John Meadows, he talked a lot about how he felt like he was figuring things out before like the data was really supporting it for bodybuilding. Like in the gym, they were figuring things out early.
Man, I don't think there really is anything I have like.
Cool.
No, I don't really think there is anything. John was also a little bit before me, so. But no, there's nothing I have. No, that's a good. I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to that. Maybe there is something I'm doing. I can't just think of it right now.
Well, I'm just curious because, like, you can't always find, like 100 participants with the exact thing that you need to, right? Like, I feel like.
I was doing the glycine thing for sleep way before it got popular. That's for sure.
There you go. There you go.
And you are going to be using glycine in a future product, I think. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Yeah, okay. So, let's get back to supplements for a hot second. What do you have? What do you have coming that you can tease?
We have Revive Sleep coming out, hopefully by the end of the month, and that's going to have 3 grams of inositol, 2 grams of glycine, or vice versa. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but it's going to have both of those, magnesium through magnesium glycinate, and then some theanine in it as well. The whole idea, not making you a zonk you out kind of sleep product, right? And I like the dosage, the way it's set up, so that if you wanted to take 1 scoop, 2 scoops, 3 scoops, however you wanted to dose it for yourself personally, we're starting you at low end of effective range with the 1 scoop, and then you can titrate up if you want, right?
So obviously, like Raw is a huge company, and then Revive is the sister company to it. When Raw already has a sleep product, how do you approach sleep differently for Revive?
Just make sure there's different ingredients. So, that has melatonin in it, right? So we have a supportive supplement for melatonin. If that's something you need, if that's something you want, it's there. We have it. Raw has it. Revive, more restorative. People are shying away from melatonin use now. That's kind of the angle with Revive now. So even if there is a crossover product, or if there's something that we offer that's pretty similar on both ends, making sure that it's aligning more with the demographic that follows Revive versus the demographic that follows Raw at that point.
I feel like melatonin is such a divisive ingredient that that's the perfect differentiator too. That's awesome. Thanks for that.
Right, because if someone complains, "Oh, this has melatonin, I don't want that," you could now shoot them over to Revive and not lose money.
Here's our non-sedative, we have just a restorative sleep formula for you.
What's your personal take on melatonin?
I think melatonin is useful in situations where somebody's sleep-wake cycle is very disrupted. So if you're somebody running, again, like really high cortisols throughout the whole day and even at the end of the day, melatonin probably is not a bad idea for you because your cortisol production being so high at the end of the day is probably suppressing your melatonin production from starting. You might need some melatonin to actually put you into some normal sleep. I think melatonin is just overused at this point, and and dosages are crazy for some people at this point. So I think it's situational, but I do think it has its benefit.
I like the thought that it's for a certain use case. I don't really appreciate how a lot of podcasters have made us feel like every single person in the world should be waking up and looking at the sun and killing lights an hour and a half before bed. Some people don't have that luxury based on their lifestyle or whatever it is, family, kids, work. And I feel the same way about melatonin. Do I think everyone in the world should be drinking it all the time? No. But when I come home and I'm jet lagged, I like it to reset my circadian rhythm. There's definitely some use cases. And I don't mind using it for a month if I know I'm going to have bad sleep that month or something, like if I'm stressed from work or something. Yeah, no, I think you're using it exactly how it should be utilized. Cool. Mm-hmm. What else you got on Revive?
Just a couple other things that we're working on is a reformulation of glucose. So we're just pulling the pills down, pulling the ingredients down, compacting it a little bit more. We have a joint support supplement coming out that's going to have Celadrin, glucosamine, MSM. It's going to have hyaluronic acid. We're also going to have what else are we working on?
Well, the joint product is going to be separate from your curcumin product, right?
Yes.
Because that was joint support but then became curcumin plus, I think.
So we have turmeric plus, and then we're coming out with joint support,
Cool.
Which will be a good product to bring to the market, especially for our demographic. So I think it'll help a lot, and it aligns also with all the endurance athletes that we're also working with now. And I just remembered we have a reformulation of probiotic coming. So a lot of different reformulations. Just to stock's done, trying to reformulate stuff, make it a little bit more effective, or just reduce pill size or pill amount too is a big thing that we're trying to work on a lot.
I'm curious.
Are you getting a lot of complaints about too many pills?
Not as much anymore since we fixed kidney.
Gotcha. Yeah. What was that? That was 9 or something like
pills.
that. Hey, version 1.0. You got to do what you got to do to get it going. That's pretty cool. Were you involved in that?
No, not so much, but that was in the works while I was brought on. But it was, it was always something I told Matt, bro, this is a lot. This is a lot.
It was the doses, right? You had some things in there at absolute grams, right?
We had some things in there at absolute grams, which now are all switched to extracts. And that just made everything so much easier. Dude, to get 4,000 milligrams of 4 grams of astragalus in capsules, that's a lot just in itself. The issue with not having it as a powder was the pine bark. It tasted really earthy no matter the flavor system. And we had a ton of complaints with it being, that was a long time ago when it was a powder. But it just did not taste right ever.
I'm excited to see the glucose change because your glucose was a lot of pills. It was 6 pills, I think.
Yeah. Now it's going to be 3.
Well, I kind of liked it because it was such huge doses that it was 1,500 milligrams of berberine. So I could split it up throughout the day and still get if I did 2 pills per meal, I was still getting 500 milligrams of berberine, I remember.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I'm excited to see what you do with that because that was a great product. In 2020, I had a bunch of videos tracking my blood sugar with it, and it was insane what would happen.
So we're using Synolin PF, we're using Genemia, we're using Ganation root, we're using berberine still, chromium's still going to be in it. The berberine actually is coming down, and I'll explain why. Let's say you were somebody who was taking maybe 12 of those a day. Maybe you ate 6 times and you took 2 every meal. The berberine at those levels is too antimicrobial to where you're probably disrupting your microbiome at that point.
I got some anecdotes back from users back in 2021 that were using multiple servings of it a day, and it was quite wrecking their digestive system.
So bringing that down, bringing these in and bringing them up a little bit, reducing the pill size puts us at a pretty good spot.
Yeah. Berberine can
Gotcha.
really
Honestly, when you mentioned reducing pill size, I was thinking moving to dihydroberberine with Glucovantage. Had you looked into that at all?
We did, and then we just looked at more over across the board. Just why not just keep it the way it is? Just keep it consistent, just so we could get it flipped over and back into consumers' hands faster.
Gotcha. Yeah, 1.5 grams of berberine is definitely a good bit. Yeah, that's the study we like to cite though on the blog because it basically outperforms metformin with with fewer side effects and everything. But that doesn't mean there's 0 side effects. It still the 1.5 grams still might get your gut.
Yeah, we use berberine a lot for gut cases just directly. So and we usually use 2,000 a day when we're trying to kill stuff.
That's pretty cool, actually. So the Revive MD, we've made a lot of videos on the Revive MD gut stack, where there's a lot of supplements, and you kept making more and more before you came in and everything. Do you have any favorites, or how do you help people when they're having gut problems? What is let's say I'm having reflux, for instance. What is your current thing to do? Reflux,
usually is a low stomach acid production issue. So betaine is something we'll always give somebody. Zinc carnosine, just to help with, obviously, stomach lining integrity. But also something with zinc carnosine that's interesting is its ability to help peritoneal cell health. And it's usually peritoneal cell dysfunction that's causing the low stomach acid. So if we can get those cells healthy again, that can help. So zinc carnosine, and then obviously it helps with mucus production and inflammation. I'm a big fan of our GI Plus. That's a great product. And then I think those three would be like acid reflux for me. A really cool at-home test that people listening can do to like try to pinpoint where your stomach, your acid reflux is coming from. When you wake up in the morning, empty stomach, take 6 ounces of water, quarter teaspoon of baking soda, mix it together, drink it. The alkaline solution should hit the acidic. It should cause a chemical reaction. There should be carbon dioxide, which should make you burp. If you don't burp within 5 minutes, we know how much basic solution we gave you. There's not enough acidic solution to cause the reaction. You probably have low stomach acid, and that's why you have reflux.
Nice. Clip it, Ben. That was
awesome. Thank you.
That's a reel right there. I love that. I've never heard that, but it totally makes sense. Okay, so if you have, then you're too alkaline at that point, right?
Yeah. Then there's not enough stomach acid production. Betaine, you need to take with meals, not just once a day like some people do. Right? You need to support the acidity of your stomach with it. You're just supplementing hydrochloric acid. And then the zinc carnosine and GI Plus are going to help those cells that are probably dysfunctional return back to normal function.
I remember this being a big talk back probably 10 years ago when people would wake up and drink warm water with lemon juice and apple cider vinegar every single day for gut or for acid reflux.
Yeah.
And this is a big discussion. Not a lot of people wanted to hear is that some people don't need more acid. But people would prescribe this like blindly to every single person out there.
Yeah, because they could actually stimulate too much acid production in some of those people.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, can we talk about endurance at Raw? I mean, I know that Natasha was involved in a bunch of those formulas, but a couple things I want to talk about was the electrolyte products that you've been doing, as well as the carbohydrate blend that you did. So I don't know if there's a place from the top where you want to start with formulating for endurance, but I kind of want to go.
Yeah. So Fuel and Replenish were projects before I came on. Natasha had a lot to do with those. I didn't really play with those profiles at all. Just kind of gave my opinion here, a little bit. And then collectively as a team, man, we do everything really together. Like there's not just like one person, deciding what the product's going to be. It's a constant email chain. We talk, whatever we see, we, get it priced, and we kind of just give feedback to each other all the time. Which is awesome. And I really appreciate that because nobody's closed-minded. We talk, we have really good conversations when it comes to new products. So that's something that's really cool about Raw and Revive, for sure. But with Fuel and Replenish, a big target with the Fuel that I was reading more and more into was that the ratio of 1 to 0.8 grams of glucose to fructose is showing better in studies now for performance. Versus old ratios. And that's why that one was designed the way it was with the cane sugar. And then that product I like a lot because it's designed to be taken in multiple scoops, not just one. You can take multiple scoops because some people are like, well, why did you guys just put more sodium instead of making the Replenish in the Fuel? It was because that's a scalable supplement, right? It's not meant just for one serving, like a pre-workout.
I always thought that was really on brand for you guys because you did that with Intra as well, with the carbs.
Yeah.
Right? You guys allow for customization with athletes.
Yeah, and that's why Fuel, I think, is really useful because, you do jiu-jitsu, right? Some of the jiu-jitsu guys are doing jiu-jitsu for 2-3 hours rolling, right? Expect an open mat day. You might need a couple scoops to get you through the workout. But if I'm just doing a light 5K, I might need a half a scoop, right? I might not even need a scoop. So there's all that interplay with Fuel that I think is really useful and really beneficial. The great thing with the sodium sources is the citrate and the chloride. Citrate sits so much better in your stomach. Citrate also will disassociate and help you with energy production, which is awesome and something that a lot of people don't really understand or know. But the saltiness is not there, right? And yeah, some people like the saltiness of the LMNT and whatnot, but more people don't, right? So having the citrate in there helps a lot with reducing how salty it tastes, and it's also easier on your intestines, so your digestion of it is better. Right, because if you're taking all this fruit, you're taking all these carbs in, gastric emptying might be really quick. sodium can help reduce gastric emptying speed, and then citrate instead of all chloride, you're not going to have as much osmotic activity, so it doesn't, go right through you.
That's awesome.
And then like Replenish, same thing. It's citrate and chloride. And then everyone's like, oh, why is there sugar in it? Right? It's 20 calories. Like, but the whole idea is that enhances permeability in your intestines of the sodium. So you're actually absorbing your sodium better with that little bit of sugar that's still in there. Right? Similar to how like we tell people to take certain products with fats, right? Mm-hmm. You need at least 5 grams of fat to form, right, the chylomicron that you need to absorb the actual supplement.
Were you getting into endurance when you, like, was this a natural thing for you already? Or like at what point did you yourself start training more functionally with everyone that was doing this already?
So I played soccer for a long time. Then I got into competitive bodybuilding and then did that for, a while. But then I decided to stop competing completely. So then like there was no goal anymore. I'm very goal driven. So that kind of was like, I don't even know what I'm doing right now. But no joke. It was that vitamin shop convention that we were all at, because we were sitting down at lunch one day and they're like, yeah, I'm going to go run 5 miles. I'm going to go run 10. I'm like, what the, like, how are these guys just going to do that? Like, it made me mad. So I was like, you know what? I got home. I texted Matt. I said, what kind of shoes do I need to buy? Because I'm doing this thing. And now I've just been full sended the whole time.
It's been so validating.
What kind of shoes did you need to buy?
He sent me some Brooks shoes to buy first. And then I have like 10 pairs of shoes.
What's your,
that's funny.
So everyone's getting into like functional training or running or, hybrid training, whatever. What's like your like one shoe recommendation? If someone wants to get in, they want to like run, train, move, whatever, like what's the one shoe?
The Nike Pegasus line. It's a Pegasus 41 is like the newest one. That's probably the best shoe I've found that you could like squat in, but you could also run a 5K in. You can do lunges in, you can do burpees in. That shoe I've realized is probably the one I'll compete in, just because of like how I can run consistently in it, but I also can do like wall balls and all that with it.
Cool. I started running last year, so it's been super validating to see a bunch of other meatheads like have struggles early on with running and cardio, because it was very hard to start. And I've seen that I wasn't the only one, so that helped out a lot. But sneakers were something that I struggled with because I was a heel striker, so it's kind of hard. I probably will have to change my gait at some point.
Yeah, you should look into the Saucony Endorphin line too.
Cool,
that's a good line too.
So what exactly are you training for now?
Are you familiar with High Rocks? Maybe heard of it?
I've heard of, but no clue.
It's like a fitness competition that started in 2017. It's really popular in Europe. It's just starting to get more popular in the States. I kind of compare it to like CrossFit without the Olympic lifting, right? It's a run in between every station. And then there's 8 different stations. So there's the total 8 miles you end up running, and then a station in between each of those 1 kilometer runs.
It's definitely like not CrossFit, wink, wink, like there's, it's functional fitness that like is constantly varied, but don't call it CrossFit. Like, I like that there's not a lot of Olympic lifting because it would be hard. I've like always watched CrossFit and thought it was the coolest thing in the world, but like I never Olympic lifted. So like the learning curve would be way too much for me.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's why I did it. That's why it attracted me of it, though. Like, it just was like, okay, like, a wall ball, the sled push, farmer's kick. I could do all this, really. I don't have to learn form for any of this stuff, except for like the erg rows, and that was really it.
That's awesome. So
okay, so how much are you running for this then? I have a few questions to take a step back for real quick. Yeah, what is your current training regimen for your competition?
So I'm following like a coaching app right now for it. The way it's kind of broken up is there's some sort of power movement that's associated with one of the stations. So like I'll squat, that's going to help me with my wall balls. I deadlifted today, that's going to help me with my farmer's carry. But then there's always like a flow at the end of the workout that's either like the row erg, the ski erg, or just runs. So today was like 10 times 500 meter repeats. So there is some like real hard there's really hard like endurance stuff at the end. They always do it at the end of the workout on tired legs because the competition doesn't stop. It's just a rolling race the whole way through. So like you're going to be on tired legs every time you do that run. So I really like that. There's not so much like upper body stuff at this point. A lot of military pressing because there's a wall ball. And you need to just, have strong shoulders for all of that. But I haven't like bench pressed or done any of that in a long time.
Interesting. Now, getting back to the creation, and this might have been before you're there, but the creation of some of the endurance line at Raw Nutrition, was this because Dom and Matt were getting into it? Did they come from the top down, or did it kind of come from the ground up because a lot of the customers were starting to get more into this stuff?
It came from the top down. Matt has always been really athletic into sports and all that stuff, and they really enjoyed it. Dom also wanted to start getting into more of this, functional fitness, triathlon style training. Mm-hmm. And Matt saw a gap in some of these supplementation formulas and, wanted to, take a really hard strike at the industry. And I think he's done a phenomenal job. I think the whole team has done a phenomenal job. I think our endurance line is going to be one of the biggest in the nation in the next year. And I really, truly mean that. We have some of the best athletes under our belt right now, and that's only going to get better. But
I was going to say, I love like just like the variety of people that you're picking up. Like you guys have an NCAA wrestler or a women's wrestler. Like no one
She's
sponsors
in Paris
wrestlers
right now doing the Olympics.
Yeah. No one sponsors wrestlers. I mean, how it's the coolest thing in the world. Your brother-in-law, Garmo, as well. Mike, Dom's brother-in-law is like a very well-known jiu-jitsu competitor. Like just picking up people from different, disciplines of endurance. It's very cool. Yeah, no, it's really, but it's all applicable to our endurance line, right? So like one of the things I do for the athletes is like once a month, we have a mandatory call. If you're sponsored, you have to be on this call with me. And it's an educational call. I go into how to incorporate the supplements to your own routine. If you're into jiu-jitsu, if you're into this, if you're into that, this is how we can do that. Like the last call I did with the entire team and all the athletes was exercise-induced issues. Why I think just because you're not on PEDs, you need kidney because of how much you train, right? Why you need liver, why you need B complex, etc. So just trying to educate also all of our athletes. That's something that part of my job is at both companies. So I have a monthly call that every athlete it's a mandatory show up. I really want to listen to one of those.
Some of them are on YouTube.
I might go watch that. That sounds awesome.
That's cool. We'll find one and link to it in the show notes there. I love that because a lot of times in brands you see the formulator off in like another planet doing something different and not fully engaging at the level, like because the athletes are viewed as marketing, and there's not that connection. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. And I think it speaks on just, I think Raw and Revive as brands, like you guys see it too, like everyone's boots on the ground with the brand. Everyone's involved with everything. So that's something that's really cool about us. Like when I'm meeting people for the first time and they're like, what do you do? And I tell them, they're like, dude, I did not expect you to do that. Like, but I'm involved and that we're all one big, group and it's awesome.
It's really cool. It's awesome to see.
Probably should ask about Chris Bumstead. Are you interfacing with him a lot or is he pushing anything really for you?
No, not too much. He's a great guy. We've had awesome conversations. I love hanging out with him when I get the chance. We talk every once in a while, but not too often.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, this is pretty sweet. I'm gonna have to listen to one of those calls you have with the athletes. Do they start like having you look at their blood work and everything too? Does it start getting into?
There was a couple of times that like people in the chat were like, "Hey, I just got my bloods. Can anybody review them?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just give me them. I'll look at them for you." Because I do think that's a really that's that difference maker. Like for some of these athletes, if you can really pinpoint some of these things and fix them, like they just get better. And it's awesome to see. So it's really cool because like these supplements work and that's important to understand. But, health supplements are not as sexy as sports supplements, right? You're going to feel the effects in a couple months, not the day you take it. So that's one issue sometimes to get the buy-in.
I have found like some people have shame about their blood work. Like they don't know if it's like appropriate to share. But the coolest part that I love about like helping people with blood work or reviewing it with them or whatever is like, it's a number that can change. Like, your weight could go up or down, or you could look better or worse. Like there's a lot of subjectivity to that, but like improving blood work, I don't know, blood work PRs for me were a big thing for a long time. Like coming out of being a serious athlete that didn't focus on it too much, like it was a really attainable goal. And I think a lot of people like, I don't know, I've seen a lot of people in the industry start to look at it more and be motivated by it more, which is pretty cool.
No, it's really cool. It's super valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I, Mike, I don't know if you have any questions, but I wanted to ask what you give jiu-jitsu athletes. Like, what is like what do you tell Garmo about? So Garmo, the way we did it was Pico 2, beta-alanine, and then creatine. And then I have them do Replenish like in the middle of a session and then at the end of a session because you guys sweat so much. So, just making sure the sodium's replenished. I like Pico 2 a lot. I think it's really underutilized. It's not expensive at all. And you can take, I tell people 2 scoops a day. That's where the research kind of falls at best with. There's just 2 good clinical studies on it. I like beta-alanine at 6-7 grams a day. If you have to space it out. Just because intramuscular carnosine really doesn't have like a threshold with beta-alanine. Mm-hmm. So it is nice. You can use a decent amount of it. But that's one thing that we do with him that's helped him a ton, just reducing that fatigue onset. That's the main thing with jiu-jitsu, right? Your rounds are long. You're constantly going at it, depending on who you're fighting, right? So, some matches are slower than others, but then some are dogfights the whole time, right? So it's all about reducing the fatigue onset for them because you're not working at like pure VO2 max at all. So like, you don't really need like that kind of support. You need like fatigue threshold support more than anything. So huge fan of the beta-alanine for those guys. Do you guys quantify sweat at all? Like, have you done any like the patch tests or stuff like that?
I usually just do like a weight test, like the weigh yourself before, weigh yourself after, subtract what you drank during, just to figure out kind of the general weight loss. And then we'll adjust like sodium from there. I haven't done any patch tests with anybody, but like Matt has and stuff like down in Stewart.
It's cool. I think it's interesting. I don't know how unique people are from one to the next, but it's something I like to measure things if I can.
Yeah, and then you just pinpoint. You're more accurate with your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Mike, I don't know if you have any other questions. I feel like we got more news about Revive and Raw than we've done in a single go in a while.
No, I mean, I don't have anything specific. I know, so right now it's August 2nd. This will probably go up next week, so whatever that day is, Wednesday, August 7th. And then we're going to there are definitely a lot of things coming to Raw Nutrition that I am privy to. I don't know if you need to talk about just flavors and fun drops like that, some cool looking labels and everything that have been sent our way. So I'm told around August 21st is around when some stuff will be dropping. So of course, follow at Get Raw Nutrition and PricePlow. Dom, what about following you on social media? How do people get a hold of you or follow you?
Yeah, just Instagram. It's _ Dom Kuza.
Gotcha.
Simple.
And we'll link to that in the show notes. Do you have anything else to say or add or anything? I don't really have any other questions. I think we're pretty well caught up.
No, but if people are interested about learning more about our products, you can go to both websites. There's blog sections now. So like I write educational stuff for the blogs. We're going to start more email newsletters. That's something that I was brought in as that's part of my role too. So like fixing all the verbiage and making sure it's really understandable. So there's a lot of content on the actual websites that you guys can read too, which is nice to have.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the blood work discussion as well.
You're welcome.
It's greatly appreciated.